Hey YouTube, MinnesotaEric here. Probably wondering, hey Eric, where's the 8th payloader video? Well, to be honest with you, I've been taking a siesta from this thing for the past couple of weeks. Part of it because I'm sick and tired of working on it, and part of it, well, because life keeps happening, and so it is what it is. Speaking of taking a siesta, the other day I was driving along with my buddy Mark, and Mark says, what is this, some kind of joke you're pulling on me? He says, my side's blowing hot. And sure enough, his side was blowing hot on my pickup truck. The zone motor on the passenger side, either the blend air door has gotten stuck or the zone motor's taking a siesta. Well, I tell you what, 90% of the time, 95% of the time, it's the zone motors. These F150s have weak zone motors. There's a lot of videos on doing this, and I decided I'm going to video this simply because, well, I tell you what, there's nobody who's got a center console, and nobody's done one with navigation. And I'm like, well, there we go, something new and different. So, hey, my truck's got center console and navigation. The controlling zone motor is sitting about right here, about a foot back. Speaking of which, always use the Motorcraft, the OEM. Hey, I know the OEMs screw up. There's aftermarket versions of these things, but especially on the bottom zone motor, there's a clearance issue, and I believe it's the Doorman is the aftermarket part. Those sometimes, that's hit and miss. And the Doorman will not fit on the bottom. It will fit on the top, but it will not fit on the driver's side. And so these things are 18 bucks, and I'll link to it in Amazon. I got this one off of Amazon. I didn't even bother going into my Ford dealer. So anyway, let me show you what you got to do. Okay, so the first thing is get the tray out of the way if you got it, whatever else is in the way. And then you're going to take off this door. You're going to take the screws off down here. If you take them off up here, well, first off, there's more of them. But you're going to be lifting this silver trim piece off. And if you take the door off down here, it won't, this hinge thingy will not be in the way. Hey, up here, it's one of these, you get older than 50, you start carrying toilet paper. You'll figure it out. Or if you have children. Either way, you carry toilet paper. So this just pops on out. And then, to make things complicated for myself, I've installed a gadget. Which oh, what's the best way to undo this? You know what? Can I get away with just... See what I'm talking about here? You see the gadget? And maybe I thought about this when I put this together. Ha 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 ha. Eric, someday you might have to service your gadget. I was thinking that day. I gave myself a plug. All right. Anyway, back to this thing. Oh, sure. USB charger back in here. Now you're not upside down, eh? Yeah. Okay. Oop, crash. This shit. Now they want my couple. You know what? I got junk on this side. I'm gonna go on the other side. It's been a little while since I did this. I want to say that it pops straight up or back or come on. Oh, they want the camera. I thought I was being real smart when I put the camera up here. Here, coexist with the Chinese takeout menu. All right. Which side just popped out? I just popped out one of them. And it's one of these like, why do you want to come out? Tug harder. So you bring a key so you can shift this thing back so you can pull out the contraptions. All right, take out your air freshener, which has been here for years and hasn't gone empty yet, so maybe it's not working. Oh, it's not working because it's been off. And if you're like me, you found one loose, so I guess I'll fix my squeak while I'm here too. I don't know if it was squeaking or not, but I have been hearing a loose squeak noise, so this might be it. I may literally be doing a mystery repair while I'm here. So the next thing you gotta do is take out the sides. And again, this is all like tug harder kind of things, you know what I mean? There's a tab that pushes down here, so now this one's gotta lift up, come on. Or just pull harder. Anyway, the other side's just like this side, only it's the right side. So you tug straight out. All right, so let's see if we can't do this one-handed. One-handed! Oh, I forgot this side's got this bowl on this side. Come on. Yeah, there we go. One-handed! The lower center console's got this bolt and it's mirrored on the other side, and then there's a bolt in the back that's mirrored on the other side. On a bench seat version truck, this is child's play, but this looks like it's suddenly a lot more work than I was expecting. Huh. It occurs to me, really all I need to do is gain about 3/4 of an inch of space. And so I'm wondering if I can sheet the entire console back 3/4 of an inch so I can release these guys. Okay, no judging on how much dog hair I have in my truck. But we come in here, 8mm, and pull out the nut. Go over to the other side, do much the same. There's the source. Come in here. But I'm wondering if I can cheat it back just a little bit at this point. Yeah, look at that. All right. All right. Okay, so having cheated back the whole console, we reveal 2 7mm screws. Come in here and sneak those off. Suspension's off the back too. All right, so those are off. Now we should be able to start gently working this nonsense. We might have to flex a little bit on the bottom. Come on. Oh, I heard something play. Twang. All right. And we got wires because this thing's 4-wheel drive. So, there we go. Just squeeze it on both sides. Or I guess it's just on this one side. So, as it would be, squeeze it on the top side of the connector. All right. Knife. Lip balm. Because, you know, it's winter here most of the year. Let's see, I'll cheat the console back a little bit more. Yeah, all right. What did that do? How far can, now that's as far as it goes. All right. Let's... Okay, YouTube, so I am fighting a bunload of wires which are down here on the bottom and would be difficult to plug back in. So I'm going to see if I can't cheat this a little bit and just start working towards pulling out the DVD screen and get that loose and see if that won't help me a little bit here. I think this is 7mm. Yeah. I'm sorry I didn't record pulling out the navigation head, but it's 4 7mm screws. And more importantly, that has given me access to the blend air motor. I got one bolt here. Oop, my hand's in the way. I'm probably not going to be able to record pulling this on out, but I've got 2 bolts, and the backside bolt and the wiring harness we're going to grab through the glove box as soon as I drop it. Okay, so no judging here. Everybody's got junk in their glove box. I think mine's fairly organized. Just 2 tabs and you can drop this on out of the way, and of course this is going to be a yard sale. In order to get the whole thing off, you'd have to pull the piano hinge in. I'm not going to do that. What happens here is you run your arm through here and you can get at the back side of this blend air door. Okay, YouTube, here we have the OEM part, the one that's got dog hair on it, and the new updated part, brand new part. They're identical. And I think I'm going to take apart the OEM part, see if I can't find a point of failure. Okay, I don't really care if I break the tabs off and destroy my way in. Okay, so we have 12.6 volts on the battery, so I got a known good battery. I just spun a little bit, but it's got no authority. So I'm going to say that the point of failure is the motor itself, not the gears. So my truck has got automatic environmental things, so this thing's constantly going twink, 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 just moving a little bit to move that flapper. And I imagine there's one spot that's developed, that sweet spot that I've always got in, went dead. On trucks that don't have automatic temperature gauge, what normally happens is these 2 gears strip out on each other. So, well, there you go. That's my official diagnosis on what went wrong. This is the next day, incidentally, and I'm getting at this in the afternoon. And I'm looking at how we kind of want to get this guy in here. And it slaps down good. Now, okay, so there are 2 8mm screws, and how I got this rear one out is use my favorite little kind of low profile 1/4 inch snap-on, ancient snap-on ratchet, and just a regular old 8mm socket, and I was able to get the thing about halfway out, and after that I reverted into the kind of the bear hug version. This is really kind of, oh, I know why I took off the arm brace, because I couldn't get my arm in there. I wonder if I should probably, you know what, I'm going to stick in the first one. There we go. A little resistance for the ratchet so I can start ratcheting, I hope. There we go, 1 click at a time. I don't have really any fine 1/4 inch ratchets, but after this job, I might get that, put that into my future goals. There is, even if you got mitt hands and forearms, you can get in here and get, I don't know if you can see this, but you see my fingers in there? You can, I'll give you a better view. See my fingers in there? You can get your fingertips on this thing. I got a 5/16 on it right now. 5/16 and 8mm are quite similar. And I'm holding it with my finger. Whoops. Now, I've seen guys cut these things. I think that's hokey. 8mm flex head. But I I got a clearance problem. It's just a little big. Now let's see here if I haven't run it down far enough, I can get my socket on there. I guess if I had a 1/4 inch low profile sockets, I probably could have. Getting it one click at a time. That feels like it's in there. Okay. Literally, it's tight. Well, after starting that back screw, I was able to run it mostly down with this flex head 8mm by, it's a Gear Wrench brand. And I wasn't able to bottom that screw, but that gave me enough space where I was able to get my ratchet in there again with a ratchet and socket and then bottom it. And so then I was able to, after that, I plugged in the electrical connection, which is kind of having to sight in through this hole here to see what I'm doing. I don't know if you can even, anyway, it's a bit tight in there. Okay, this thing is a pain in the hassle. We got all kinds of crazy plugs going on here. Trivia. If you turn on a Ford radio and you have no radio and the clock blinks at you, then take the radio out, take the circuit board out of the radio, turn your oven to 375 and bake it for 8 to 10 minutes to resolder the circuit board. Hey, I'm going to give you an executive summary of what you need to do to get the passenger blend air door out on a pickup truck that's got navigation and a center console. First thing you're going to do is remove the armrest as I detailed using a T27 Torx nut. Remove the lower 3 bolts out of there. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to remove 2 bolts here. The 2 bolts on, the 1 bolt on either side of the center console, and then there's 2 bolts in the back. You'll have to slide your seats forward and back to get this, and then cheat the entire center console back as far as you can. Looks like I was able to move it a good couple inches. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to pull out the screws that are on the bottom of the trim. There's screws holding down the trim on this. You'll be able to pull off the driver's side, no problem. The passenger side is captured by the airbag. The airbag's held on by 3 or 4 nuts, and it's a pain in the hassle to get this to line up. So just leave this here. Then there's a little rubber piece here. Remove that. Just pick it up with your fingers or use a pick. There's 2 screws coming down on the bottom, and here's the step I did not know about, and I'm going to tell you now, and this is going to save you. There is a nut holding the bottom of this trim panel on, control panel on, and if you don't know it's there, it's going to make life difficult, but this piece here comes out. I'll show you. There's a little pry mark thingy. So even before you even start to take out that trim piece, there's another lower trim here that you can just grab with your fingers. It's like 2 inches wide, and I don't have it handy here, but it's elsewhere. And just pull that out of the way, and then come in and pick this thing from the bottom. It's right underneath the powered by logo, or specifically, it's right underneath the R in powered, okay? Pick that on out, and you're going to have to work this thing on out. Some wires are going to come with it, okay? And then that's going to reveal this screw hole. You take that screw out, and then if you see on the sides, the side trims do cover this, so you have to make sure that this trim on the passenger side is loose enough where you can wiggle this thing on off, okay? And then you'll be able to get at the screen for the navigation. Pull the screen for the navigation out, and then it is just a matter of there's one obvious screw in here. Okay, so there's one obvious screw in here, and you're going to come at it with a 1/4 inch ratchet and an 8mm socket. And then, as I detail, to get the rear screw, you're going to use the same ratchet. And if you got a fine tooth ratchet, boy, get that thing on out. This is not a fine tooth ratchet, but I was able to get it to come out about halfway with a click every time, okay? So be patient, but it doesn't take that long to get it on out, okay? It's a little fiddly, I'll grant you that. And then once you've got the thing halfway on out, you'll have the clearance to finally put on a ratcheting 8mm wrench. I used this flex head that I have. This one's specifically, it's made by Gear Wrench flex head, 8mm, and I was able to reach up with the wrench through the, I dropped the glove box out of the way, and I was able to get my palm in this position, and then reaching in kind of like a bear hug motion, I was able to put my finger and hold it on there, and then I was able to just gently get that screw to go out, and you pop the electrical connector while you're there. There's a red tab that you have to pull back first before you can pull the electrical connector. Again, it's a little fiddly. I will say this, with the radio out, now, you don't need to pull the radio, as I found out, but with the radio out, I was sighting through a hole right here, and this radio is partially covering that for running the electrical connector. You can see it if you're nimble enough, if you poke your head down low enough from the glove box side. But so the zone motor isn't particularly hard to get that second nut out if you know the technique and you happen to have a ratcheting flex head wrench, 8mm wrench, and a relatively low profile 1/4 inch ratchet. Obviously the socket isn't low profile. If I had a low profile socket, that would have made it a little easier because I may have been able to get that nut completely out just using the ratchet. And you're just fishing the ratchet right over the top. Right over the top, guys. So I don't understand why the internet had a whole lot of problems with it. It's tight, it's a little fiddly, but patience and you'll get it on out. Okay, for your navigation screen, just remember the index pins are on the top side. Otherwise you're like, ooh, wait, it could go. And you've got two connectors on the back side of this thing. One is, let's get this plug in first. This is a simple electrical plug where you just push down to release it. These guys I found out are a little bit more fiddly, and I gotta creep forward and get on it. Oh, come on. Now I'm doing it blind. I heard it click. Okay. There we go. You're gonna stay there, or do I have to hold it with a screw? Okay, it says caution, scrap if dropped on the backside, so let's not drop it, right? There we go. I had to fight that screw out too. And these again are all the same kind of universal 7mm screws that Ford likes to use on their dashwork. Now you're not going to be able to see this. Yeah, maybe you will. Oh, you go there, okay. plug that in. Make sure these two clowns go through the hole. Oh, this is so much easier. Now it's just a matter of, I can't quite see the tabs. Oh, it goes something like this though. I just heard it snap. The goodness of snappage. There we go. Hey, and remember, don't get to yammering while you're doing this job and forget to plug in the cable in the top, like I just did. There we go. Let the yammering continue now. Okay, now the only thing that I have to remember about this guy is plug in your four-wheel drive if you've got a four-wheel drive. And then we got to tuck it up, stick it up underneath here. So we'll pre-pry and start trying to get this in there. I might need to get a pry hooky tool here. All right, see what I got here. It's my pry hooky tool. Yeah, there we go. Now, you can't see it. I'm going to tilt the angle down a little bit so you can see it a little better. Again, I apologize for the lighting, but it is, I would be blinded if I didn't have that beach towel. So again, we're going to flex the living smack out of this guy. Come on. There we go. Let's start settling everything down. All looks good. Now, there's the two 7mm bolts. Those go back in. Okay, so at this point, we can drop in our two 7mm flange screws that go into the top. And now we're going to give you a little better angle on that screw that I wish I knew about when I started. The screw I wish I knew about when I started this project. Alright, so that's the dash. I suppose right now we could do a performance test. Blowing chili. Blowing chili. Blowing not as chilly. Because there's an interference fit with these tabs, is to make sure that the console is still pulled away before you go ahead and try to install your trim, the top trim to the console. And if you're like me, you got some extra thing in here. You got to make sure that this stays out of there. All right. So then, this looks like it's all on a, can't quite see that side, but this looks like it's all set in here. Okay, so now you slide your entire console forward, and you see how those tabs engaged there and there? That's the only way you're going to get by putting this trim piece in, because these guys have to go down first, and they can't go down first if you have the console attached. So you got to leave the console loose before you can put this on. This isn't true for taking it off. You can flex it off, but you cannot flex it back on unless you want to really mar up the silver. I suppose if you're a grunt, you could make it happen. Of course, now what we do is we go ahead and start bolting things back together. Now, when I took this apart, I found this bolt loose. And I've been hearing a squeaky loose bolt noise. And I didn't know where it was. Well, haha, I fixed it. Awesome. Here we just start sending these guys home. There you go. And then while you're here, you may as well go ahead and install your trim. It slides forward. Make sure you're hooked there. And then it just snaps in. Screw on the passenger side, and again, this is one of these things while you're here. You see how this has got a tab on it, so it's going to slide forward, and let's see, this tab connects onto there. So we'll slide it forward until we can properly index. There you go. Just the screw in the back. And then you come at these things like a spider monkey and screw them in. You're screwing. You're screwing into an aluminum block. If you plug in your Microsoft Sync USB ports and stereo wire. Is that in there all the way? Yeah, in there. I didn't think it was in there. So, hey, push it in all the way, and then the red thing. Okay, and let's see here. Up is up, so, okay. Fight it! Snapperoni. If only I knew to pry this out first. This would have been a lot easier for me. And then, no, we don't want this here yet. Now we got one last thing we got to do. Down, 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 down. All right. Oh, wait, why is this two wires exposed? We pull it up and we get the exposed wires in there. And then we go down, down, down. No exposed wires. I don't feel them, don't see them. You don't see them, you don't feel them. And then we got this trim piece. Okay, next we install this trim piece. There. And then one of the cup holders in the back that never made it. It fell out. And then we go, wow, time for a victory lap because we are D-O-N-E. Done. Or like the pasta commercials. It's in there. The two biggest takeaways is when you're replacing the passenger blend air motor is that you are going to have to pull the 6 bolts out and pull back the center console about 2 inches. In fact, doing that right off the bat might be cool. In other words, this pops out, the side panels pop out, and then you can pull all 6 bolts and just gently pull back on the center console, and then you'll pull this trim piece off and then start prying this from the bottom. out, okay? And that, so you can get access to this screw. Then you'll go after the 7mm screws on either side. Pull these loose. You can pull that one all the way out the driver's side. This guy, you'll only end up loosening it because it is captured by the airbag. It's captured by the airbag. And then there's 2 bolts up top. Speaking of which, I'm forgetting my rubber snubber. I guess this is the victory lap here. Rubber snubber install. Okay, and you're not done until you put the rubber snubber back in. The rubber snubber. There we go. Rubber snubber installed. Anyway, I'm going to try to edit this together into the tersest, shortest possible video, because I know when it's fix-it videos, they're like, hey, dude, stop talking. Show me, show me, show me. So, anyway. If this video helped you and you like this video, then give me a thumbs up. And if you want to see more, then I highly suggest you subscribe, because I am kind of the king of what are we going to fix next.
I love it when it like
the final act.
That's it. It's charge up the compressor.